Welcome back, everybody, to a look at a new release from Warner Brothers via their Archive Collection series, and it is 1991's Showdown in Little Tokyo. So this is directed by Mark L. Lester, who also did Commando, Firestarter, Class of 1984, and its sequel, Class of 1999. This is a buddy cop action film. It clocks in at 78 minutes long. Stars the likes of Dolph Lundgren, who was also in the really rather great Dark Angel, as well as Universal Soldier and the 1989 version of The Punisher. Also stars Brandon Lee in one of the few roles that he did before he sadly passed away. Um, but I've only seen him in the likes of Legacy of Rage and The Crow. Also got Cary-Hiroyuki Tagawa, who was in Kubo and the Two Strings and Nemesis. And finally, Tia Chiari, who was in the likes of True Lies and the Wayne's World films. So, an American with a Japanese upbringing, Chris Kenner is a police officer assigned to the Little Tokyo section of Los Angeles. Kenner is partnered with Johnny Murata, a Japanese American who isn't in touch with his roots. Despite their differences, both men excel in martial arts and utilize their formidable skills when they go up against Yoshida, a vicious Yakuza drug dealer with ties to Kenner's past. So, unfortunately, this is really rather quite far from original, and if you hadn't have guessed by its short running time, it seemingly has had vast reams of the script torn from it to make it as basic as possible. So you add in the fact it's not all that original. We've had plenty of buddy cop films from the 80s, you know, well before this. 48 Hours, Lethal Weapon, both of which are far superior to this. And then you add into the fact that it feels like the plot is quite rushed. Less than 80 minutes. How often do you come across a less than 80-minute film that is, from the 90s or newer, that is actually great? Toy Story, there's not really all that many, to be honest. And it's as short as it is because there's very minimal characterization. There's very little build up in terms of the two leads becoming, partners, and such and such. But it does have the flip side to that in the fact that it is highly entertaining thanks to its cheesy tone, dumb one-liners, fun action scenes. Highlight being Dolph Lundgren lifting up a car onto its side just so he can get a bit more cover so he can get away. And the interplay between the two leads. It is also well paced, has solid production value, doesn't skimp on the violence, and is generally engrossing. And yeah, the fact that there's very little actual plot to this does, have the benefit of just getting to the bits that you really enjoy, like the action and the interplay between the characters and such. But yeah, it wouldn't have harmed to have another 10 minutes on this, at least just to give some more build up to them becoming partners, add a little bit more characterization and such. But yeah, unfortunately, that is not the case for this film. So yeah, it gets a 3.5 out of 5, which is about the same kind of rating as something like Dark Angel with Dolph Lundgren, or one of the class of 1980, class of 1984 and such. But it's by no means as good as an action film as far as the likes of Commando goes, and Firestarter has that bit more spectacle to it. But yeah, still solid enough. But as far as Warner Brothers Archive Collection releases go, this is as basic as they come. You know, just a disc, no physical extras at all. And in terms of elements on the disc, you get the film, which looks decent enough in its 1080p presentation. Does have DTS HD master audio on it as well. But in terms of extras, you've got a trailer and English subtitles, and that is it. So yeah, real bare bones. We have had more in-depth releases from Warner Brothers Archive Collection before, not in terms of the physical aspects, because that has never been the case, but we certainly had more extras on the disc themselves. So a little bit sad that there isn't more on here, but yeah, that's just the way it is sometimes. Some come with plenty of extras, some come with very few. So yeah, and this is one of those with very few. But still, it's a decent enough film, and I didn't hate my time with it, especially since it didn't really stick around for very long to get annoyed at. So yeah, there is that. But nonetheless, thank you for watching. If you have seen this film before, let's hear your thoughts on it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.